Hello everyone, this is Mini Ninja speaking. Today's Boxing Day episode, if I get it up in time, is going to be based on the Kamione Muay Thai Fighter figure, the O2A model to be exact, which, as you can kind of guess from the general packaging here, is Kamione aka Taunton Arts Toys' take on an unofficial Gogeta figure, specifically with this color scheme being based on the Dragon Ball Z Fusion Reborn movie film, as opposed to the Dragon Ball Super version, which is O2B, as you might imagine. Now, looking at the clamshell, or clamshells as I'm about to show in you a second, kind of with the rename, they also started doing the pattern of separating the character-specific items, namely the alternate hair, face plates, and in this case, vest bits, into a secondary packaging for copyright reasons. Now, they also included a little Ziploc bag there, a additional head sculpt, which is more of a windswept model, but generally speaking, all of them kind of slip on the same. When you pop off the alternate fake head here, which is a very angry expression for a monk, I would say. Height-wise, you can see, it's going to be in line with the more standard figures of the line at about 5.5 to 6 inches tall, depending on which head you put on there. And in terms of articulation, this particular toy kind of fits along the lines of what I would say is close to a 3.0 articulation style if you're looking with the official line there. That being said, while it is a highly articulated toy in terms of all the various bits of technology in there, it is not necessarily a perfect toy in terms of how certain bits are there. Namely, I would say the neck joint, or at least the with the head on there, as well as the butterfly joints and shoulder joints, are particularly restrictive on my particular copy, and my understanding this is a bit of a common QC issue, with the joints being especially tight to the point that you hear the plastic squealing. And while the rest of the arm bits, namely the elbow joints, which is double jointed elbow, and the wrist joints are fine enough, I would strongly recommend that you want to take some silicone oil or shock oil, whatever you have handy, in order to really loosen up the actual shoulder bits as well as the bicep bits that are on this particular torso. And speaking of the torso, in terms of upper torso, while you do have side to side just fine, up and down is kind of limited in terms of the ab crunch, and the waist swivel honestly works just fine, but it's still not the most impressive. Also, the legs themselves do work just fine, I would say, although I will comment that the knee joints in particular, which is a double jointed knee, you also want to add a little shock oil or silicone oil to those as well, because they're definitely on the tight side. Now, for the ankle joints, much like most other toys with this particular kind of sock pattern on there, they're functional in terms of the range of them, but they are still a tad limited, so you might want to kind of drag them out a bit. Now, this is a clip with me having added some shock oil to the figure, and as you can see, I'm having a lot easier time moving around there, which also means the actual butterfly joint moves a little bit better, although it is a touch limited, because I think the key issue on this one is that the upper torso piece itself, which is a solid bit of plastic, is a bit smaller than what you might expect, especially smaller than the some of the other toys I've reviewed as of late, so that might cause some issues. Now, here's with one of the Super Saiyan heads on there, so now we have Gogeta proper here, and honestly, once you get him on there, that is actually a very impressive look, and frankly, I really like what they went in there with the head sculpt. It's very on model, I would say, which is more than I could say for certain other figures I've reviewed as of late. Now, unfortunately, once you put the shoulder bits on there, especially the arm bits, the little extra range that we might have gotten back from the silicone oil, they're slightly hindered, I would say, just because of the extra bits on the arms, and the neck joint actually doesn't seem to improve too much in terms of its range once you put the official head on here, so the neck is a touch limited, once again for the upper torso reasons I believe are going on there. Now, getting everything out of the various clamshells, we have a whopping amount of accessories to go with this particular toy here. Namely, I think there's about 14 different sets of hands advertised on here, including alternate bicep bits if you wanted to continue with the generic Kickboxer look for some reason or other, or fighter I should say, but for that one you have separate on the elbow level. I wouldn't recommend it personally as it is a bit tight. You have this crossed arm bit, which given the shoulder being a bit of an issue on my copy, I unfortunately will not be displaying at this time, but if you have a slightly more cooperative set, they do fit on there quite nicely, my understanding. The effect piece, the Stardust Breaker, actually has with little pegs for two hands, so you can actually use this for both sides, not just limited to one side, which is actually will be a comparison point I'll mention later again. Now, for the hair bits, now we had 4 of them overall, but they're honestly fairly similar. 3 overall Super Saiyan heads, 1 with the halo spot, 1 without, 1 windswept, and the base form head, which is why it also has a bunch of base form faces on there. with the black hair. Honestly, in terms of the face decals, everything is nice and solid, very clean applications. And in terms of switching them out, you might want to be a little careful just because they are a bit sharp in terms of the sculpt, which is honestly kind of a good thing too, I would say. It's a very sharp, detailed sculpt. But you kind of have to remove the hair, slip the face on and off, and then put the bangs back on with the faceplate attached. And everything holds in really nicely, I would say. Also, speaking of the effect pieces, the Stardust Breaker effect here, aside from not just being able to have one for both hands, so you could pose it however you like, the effect bit is slightly translucent and is actually very nicely colored and rendered. It really changes its appearance depending on what angle you have it on there. So, once you get the articulation set up there, and little quirks with the oil, honestly, you have a lot of different possibility and options with this particular toy with all the accessories going on there. Pretty much it's a set of hands for whatever you want. Now, there's a bit of reuse going on, as you are getting bits which also don't technically apply to this particular version of Gogeta, such as the, not display here, this more stretched out vest and these hands, as they're actually meant for DB Super, but trust me, you can certainly find things to occupy them with, that are a little more on character for this particular take on Gogeta. Now, quick comparison between that and a more official Gogeta, mind you, with an alternate head sculpt, it's not a fair comparison. The Kamione one is so much better. So yeah, let's just skip to the version we all really want to talk about, and that is the Hero Waltz take by Demoniacal Fit, as opposed to the Muay Thai Fighter here. Now, if we're being totally fair to fair, the Demoniacal Fit is also roughly half the price here. Although, based on the overall level of quality and detail in terms of sculpts, other than some artistic license, you'd be hard-pressed to tell. Now, I will clearly see this is kind of more personal preference. The head sculpt on the Kamione model here is absolutely more on model compared to what the Demoniacal Fit model is going on there, which the head sculpt is by far the weakest point on that figure. That being said, a lot of the upper torso on the Demoniacal Fit Hero Waltz does have some advantages that just are missing on the Kamione version. Namely, while the odds way that they split the vest on the upper body is curious to say the least on that one, it also allows for extra range, especially on the butterfly joints, even if it's by what seems like a little bit only on the camera there. It allows for extra range and extra movement that isn't present on the Kamione one, just because the single-piece vest kind of limits the range of motion in terms of that. And also, the upper torso on the Demoniacal Fit is slightly larger, which will not just affect just the shoulders there, but also slightly the neck range. You're going to get a lot more up and down motion, and it's more side to side, that weren't present on the Kamione one, just because it is a lot more restrictive with how small the upper torso is. Now, the ab crunch and other stuff is roughly the same, maybe a little bit better on the Demoniacal Fit, if I'm being totally honest, but in terms of the arms and such, those are roughly equal, so that's kind of not much to discuss. It's more art style. Balancing wise, even in my slightly off-kilter floor, they're both balanced incredibly well. That being said, I would consider the legs on the Kamione model a much nicer fit. It's a much cleaner overall sculpt. Even when you're bending the legs there, if you know how to bend the knees, it's a much cleaner silhouette. And the legs on the Demoniacal Fit one are a little gangly at the best of times. Now, which one is better overall? Your mileage may vary. You're paying basically double for the Kamione version, but you're also getting so many different accessories there, by far well more than what was offered with the Demoniacal Fit. Basically, you are getting a premium figure worth of stuff, so if you're willing to shell the extra cash, I feel the Muay Thai Fighter is a decent fit for your collection. But if you want a more economic version, well, you're still not going to go wrong with the Hero Waltz figure. And with that, that's all I need to say for now, in case I don't get another video before New Year's. Thank you all, enjoy the rest of your holiday, and catch you later.